Well, as I mentioned, SLADE CLEAVES is in town, and he'll be performing over at the Plaza Palomino tonight. Right now, we're going to hear him live in Studio 2A. Take it away.
Hard times coming home now. Can't get your feet on the ground. Got some issues and no one wants you around. Barely sleeping and you can't get through to the VA on the phone. No one's hiring and no one wants to give you a loan. And everyone else is carrying on just like they've always done before. You've been home for a couple of years now, buddy, but you're still fighting the war. Flashback to Fallujah, lost another best friend. 3 tours of duty and you're wondering when it's all gonna end. Body's broken and bones shattered, blood and dust in your mouth. Getting weary but you're running with a few in the crowd. Sometimes you wonder why you went, you don't wonder what you stayed on for. You've been home for a couple of years now, buddy, but you're still fighting the war. Men go off to war for 100 reasons, but they all come home with the same demons. Some you can keep at bay for a while, some will pin you to the floor. You've been home for a couple of years now, buddy, but you're still fighting the war. The bedspread is fraying, faded and tearing apart. 2 strangers holding each other in the dark. Tell me, what were you dreaming? How did you think it would end? How many heroes are scattered out into the wind? And all the happily ever afters turn to broken dishes and slamming doors. You've been home for a couple of years now, buddy, but you're still fighting the war.
91.3 KXCI Tucson, Real People, Real Radio. You just heard SLADE CLEAVES live in Studio 2A with the song Still Fighting the War, which is the title track for the new release. Thanks so much for taking the time to come in.
My pleasure. Good to see you.
You too. I was going through a stack of CDs. I was trying to find this one CD, and I think we've got at least 7 of your CDs. Wow. Yeah. And I was looking for this song that I had left KXCI for a little while, and when I came back, I couldn't remember. It's like I heard your voice, I remember, but I couldn't think of what I was. Anyway, it was Run, Jolie, Run.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And what was the name of the record that was off of?
That's from the record called Everything You Love Will Be Taken Away.
Yes, which is an amazing record. And so luckily I was just back in there and I was like, I found it. So how many CDs have you released?
I don't know. You're making me feel old now.
Sorry, didn't mean to.
Let's see. I think nationally maybe 7 or 8. And then I did 2 or 3 before that when I was starting out. Did you start out
in a band, or have you always been solo?
Yeah. Well, it depends how you count it. I had many false starts. I started with piano lessons in grade school, and then I was in a band in high school, a garage band, and then I was a busker on my own in college, and after college I was in a sort of an alt-country band before the term existed, before the internet existed. And then I moved to Austin from Maine as a solo act, and eventually formed a band there. And most of my records are fleshed out with band people. But right now, I'm usually touring as a duo these days. Yeah.
And you're living in Austin now?
I live outside of Austin.
Outside of Austin. And so, what comes first for you, the lyrics or the melody to the song?
I haven't written a song in so long, I can't remember now.
Come on. You have a whole new CD.
I know, but I wrote the songs over the last 4 years and then started the record about a year and a half ago. And I stopped writing because it just takes so much effort to record and get a record ready for release and tour. So I really haven't picked up a pen in a long time. But generally, the little tiny bits of inspiration are randomly either musical or lyrical, and I just keep little tiny scraps and then start gluing them together. So there's really no good answer to that question before or after.
What about Still Fighting the War? Did that one come to you in one solid chunk, or was that more little bits?
No, that one had a long, tortuous upbringing and birth and adolescence. Really tough adolescence on that one.
Wow.
Let's see, what happened? I started that in the depths of the recession, so early 2009. I went and checked recently. And it was originally more a song about just the idea of being swindled in general, about a guy losing all his money in the stock market, and then a separate verse about a soldier and a separate verse about a couple. And I had all these great lines in there like Too Big to Fail and Mission Accomplished and Home for Christmas and The Unsinkable Ship and, all these sort of cliches that don't really mean what they say they mean, or most people find out that they mean less than they promise. And it was just too unwieldy. And eventually, over 8 or 9 drafts, I narrowed it down to the story of a soldier coming home, and because that was the most dramatic verse of the song, and I just wanted to flesh that out. And plus, I was starting to hear more and more stories about that exact thing happening, so I thought, well, here's my chance for a topical song.
Well, it's my absolute favorite on the album.
Nice.
It's an unbelievable piece of artwork, and every line is. So it's interesting for me to hear that it took some time, because every line in there is such a gem. And someone like myself who's so far removed from even having family in the military. I mean, my father was, but no one around me now. I tear up every time I hear that song, because I can just really get it.
Thank you
it's
so
a
much.
Beautiful piece of art. I think my other favorites, I'm just going to tell you my favorites, Slade, if you don't mind. I like the Rust Belt Fields as well, and Welding Burns.
Nice.
So good.
Those two I wrote with my old buddy Rod Picott.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do those.
Awesome. We'd love to hear them.
Cool. Let's do Rust Belt Fields. Rod and I grew up in this little town in South Berwick, Maine, and his dad was a welder, actually. That's where we got the start for that one. But let's do Rust Belt Fields first. This is my town, out in the Rust Belt Fields. We were banging out Buicks and Oldsmobiles. There was always a job, and the money was there. Some say we got a little lazy, nobody seemed to care. But they figured it out and sent the elbow grease down to Mexico and off to the Chinese. And I learned a little something about how things are. No one remembers your name just for working hard. Drove into the ground till your factory's cold, and they tear it all down and the parts get sold. Come the bankers now, picking over the bones. I got 3 more neighbors now, about to lose their homes. 'Cause they figured it out and sent the elbow grease down to Mexico and off to the Chinese. And I learned a little something about how things are. No one gets a bonus for bloody knuckles and scars. And no one remembers your name just for working hard. There's a casino boat that's up around Boone. Think I'll buy me a bottle in a motel room. Put all I have left on a little black square. Risk it all like the big boys, like I don't even care. Drive you into the ground until your engine's cold, calling the auctioneer as the banks foreclose. And I learned a little something about how things are. No one gets a bonus for bloody knuckles and scars. No one remembers your name just for working hard.
.3 KXCI Tucson, Real People, Real Radio, SLADE CLEAVES live in Studio 2A. Another, just such a stunning song.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'll stop.
Like I said, my buddy Rod Picott, we met in the second or third grade, and we were listening to Beatles records together, and in 1980 we formed a garage band called the Magic Rats. It was in the Magic Rat drove his sleek machine over the Jersey state line.
Yeah.
And we were big Bruce Springsteen fans, and the River came out that year, and we soaked that up. And I think Bruce was probably one of the first artists to kind of see that trend happening, the deindustrialization of big parts of the country, and these jobs are going away and they're not coming back, that kind of thing. And we saw that a little bit in the neighborhood where we grew up. There was a couple of factories that shut down while we were growing up, so it resonated with us then, and it's still going on today.
Yeah, definitely. The show is tonight over at Plaza Palomino at Suite 147, and are you performing alone, or are you playing as a duo tonight?
Well, hopefully, Scrappy Judd Newcomb, who produced the bulk of the album, a fantastic guitar player from Austin, is going to make it in to the airport in time to get to the show. He's supposed to arrive at 5-something, so as long as there's not a big traffic jam, he'll be at the show.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And are you on a tour right now, or is this more of a one-off?
This is a tour. This is the sort of album release tour started in mid-June and went real heavy for 3 or 4 weeks, and we took 3 or 4 weeks off up in Maine, where my wife Karen and I grew up. Mm-hmm. And this is the first day of the second leg of the tour, actually, which will go till the end of October.
Wow.
Pretty much nonstop, so hope we're rested and ready here.
Yeah. When you're living in Austin and you play out, do you play only big shows, or let's say if you're working on a song, do you ever show up at a coffee house or take a smaller gig just to try new material?
I don't do that. I like to kind of get warmed up, and once I get, the first couple of nights are usually a little jittery. I might forget some words. My voice is a little bit weak. I can feel it right now. It doesn't have the gruffness that it has after a couple of nights of shows, or the power even and control. So I feel a little bit weak right now, but after I get seasoned after a couple of nights, then I just assume keep playing for as long as I can handle it.
Wow.
So that's why we book the tours like that. So when we go out, it's for a big chunk. And we'll do a show in Austin. It will be our last show at the end of October, and then we'll take some time off again.
Yeah. Well, Austin must be real proud to have you. Great new CD, Still Fighting the War is the name of it. The website is SLADECLEAVES.com. The show is tonight at Plaza Palomino at 147 is the suite at 7:30 p.m. And we'd love to get one last song from you.
Yeah, well, we talked about Rod, and we talked about welding burns. Let's do that one.
Thank you.
My father was a welder down at the Navy Yard, up on the North Atlantic where the winters come down hard. A union job, some overtime, nobody would complain. He went to work with humble pride through the snow and rain. Some things you're born to, some things you gotta learn. My father built his world on bone, muscle and blood, and welding burns. After work there was some drinking, he'd get a little rough, just to knock the edges off, but he never got enough. He'd hang his coat up by the door and light a cigarette. Mama take his supper out and turn off the TV set. Some things you're born to, some things you gotta learn. My father built his world on bone, muscle and blood, and welding burns. I can see him down at Lee's Mills Pond with the August sun warming her brown skin. He promised he'd take her away, but I think he knew even way back then, way back then. Mama says they're hiring, no need to graduate. Maybe your dad could make a call to the 788. I always thought I'd get away, I thought I would rise above. I don't remember anymore what I was dreaming of. Some things you're born to, some things you'd better learn. My father was born bone, muscle and blood, and welding burns. Some things you're born to, some things you gotta learn. My father built his world on bone, muscle and blood, and welding burns.
91.3 KXCI Tucson. Real people, real radio. Slade Cleaves live in Studio 2A. His latest release, Still Fighting the War. His show is tonight over at the Plaza Palomino, starting at 7:30, and he'll be in Suite 147. Thanks again so much for coming in, Slade. You can find out more about tonight's show at rhythmandroots.org or at sladecleaves.com.